I never realized how hard this would be until I actually sat down and like did it. This is really this feels so much like just talking to myself, because it damn near is, like, realistically, like I'm just staring at a window talking to myself, but like there is a reason behind it, so I mean, whatever. It's just something I gotta like get cozy to. So there's really no way to put this other than like my life has taken some interesting turns in the years that have been. And I've ran out of options in regards to, I don't know, my mental health. Like, I feel like sitting down and just talking about and keeping up with what's been going on can like kind of help me keep up with what's been going on. Like, it's almost hard to even like keep up or keep track, you know? But I feel like also recording everything, having, you know, kind of saying things out loud and like venting can kind of release them from my mind. Like, there's a lot of things that I go through and experience mentally over and over again every day in my life, and a lot of it stems from depression and, you know, trauma, PTSD. It all stems from stuff that I've been dealing with my whole life. But I feel like maybe if I finally like start putting them somewhere outside of my mind, can kind of clear my head out, you know, kind of clean it out, not have to think of it anymore, just kind of release the negativity, set it free, so to speak. And honestly, like, I just kind of have been needing something to look forward to at all, you know. All I do is work every day. I have 2 jobs, doubles every day, pretty much, 9 to 5. Other than working, my romantic life is like an absolute shit show. Every other part of my life is kind of a shit show. Lots of my family's dying, you know. There's a lot of things going on outside of, you know, the tea, the reality, but I'm definitely nowhere near where I was, you know, mentally supposed to be. You know, when I was growing up, I thought I'd actually have a career, or maybe a chance at an actual career that didn't mean morning to night shifts of making, you know, barely enough money to live. But sometimes it's just, you know, the circumstance. I know I'm not the only one, which is another reason why I want to make these videos. Like, anytime that I'm like bitching mentally, you know, anytime that there's something that I'm complaining about or upset about, I always think, oh, well, you know, it could be worse. Like, when I was homeless, you know, it could have been worse. Like, I have parents that have money, you know, and that's always what I think. You know, there's people that are like for real screwed. They have no backup. They have no other options. They have nothing to fall back on. Even like mentally, they have no hope. You know, I at least had like some hope, you know. But, you know, there's always something worse. And, you know, if Shameless has taught me anything at all, it's that watching someone else's shit kind of makes your shit just feel a little bit better. But yeah. So I should probably start, I guess, where I am. You know, I'm not really going to go into my past. I'm not really going to go into my future. I feel like I should just kind of acknowledge, analyze the now, where I'm at now. Like, literally right this very second, I am between shifts. I worked 10 to like 1 at the Neely house, and I have some time in between. I'm gonna run for a little bit and then go to my next job of the day. This is like an average day for me at this point in my life, which perspectively like sucks, but also like it's money, you know. This is my room, you know. I have a house, you know. I'm taking care of myself, which is, you know, definitely a positive, something that I can be proud of. But, you know, it's not much, especially for this age. You know, I'm not 21, I'm almost 21. And I'm on what? Year 3 of minimum wage and no school. I had 1 year of school. Maybe someday I'll get into the bullshit that happened at school, but school is definitely not a good thing for me at all. But I wanted to initially be an artist, and that's something that I've kind of lost touch with, you know, even just down to having time for it. You know, I definitely try to draw when I can, but I haven't really done any projects in a really long time. I haven't really like actually started to finish, like done any artistic projects, which I told myself, honestly, like when I first got out of college, I said, you know, while I'm working 9 to 5, I can make a bunch of art and then sell it, you know, when I get to that point. But that's never happened. You know, I've just worked so much that there's really no time for art. The time that I could be using for art, I've been using to try to better my mental health. But, you know, clearly it's still a shit show. That's another thing. Just recently that's been going on. I should probably note. My dad was just in the hospital. He has heart problems. We'll just put it that way. There's a lot of terms behind it that I could try to remember, but it's probably not even worth it. Like, nobody's really gonna know what they mean. I don't even know what the fuck they mean, honestly. But bro's not okay. That's a fact. This is shit that I've been I've noticed in him since I was growing up. I would see him, like one day we were pulling up, we were on a boat, and he was just laying back, and he was like, I can't get up, Millie, you have to take the car to the gas station nearby, get me orange juice, I need sugar. And I was like, okay. And I was like, probably like 14, 15, yeah, I was like 14. I wasn't even 15. I wasn't even like training for my license. But I took the car, went, got him orange juice, and he could barely get up the stairs. Like, this is something that I've been noticing in him since I was a kid. You know, he's definitely always had heart problems. He's always had problems, but he's just always ignored it. So he finally has done something about that, you know. Lately he's been in the hospital. He was at work, and somebody noticed that there was just something not right about him, and he said, you know what, I'll go to the ER if I don't feel good tomorrow. And he did. He went to the ER, which is something that he would never ever do. Like, when I was growing up, there was one Thanksgiving where something happened with his heart. I think he had like a mini heart attack, something like that, or he was like dangerously close to having a heart attack. And when we got back, the doctor was like, all right, there's all this stuff you have to do to change your lifestyle. And he literally said, no, like, I don't need medication, I don't need to change anything, like, I don't care, like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, literally in front of me, like you clearly don't have a kid that actually wants you to care, but like, whatever, you know, it's fine. It's just the way that he's always been, you know. I'm not gonna pay the medical bills, I'm not gonna do the pills, I'm not gonna do anything about it. But I think he had basically like 2 near-death experiences in one. And like, there's the first initial experience where when he pulled up to the hospital, they were like, all right, well, this could have happened. So it's like, he could have died if he didn't do that. And then when they put him on anesthesia to perform, medical shit on him, he was allergic to the anesthesia, which sent him into another emergency, another near-death experience. Like, it was a lot. And it put a lot of perspective. It put his life into a lot of perspective, I think, to him. He finally, realized that it wasn't something that he could really test anymore, This wasn't something he could just ignore. This wasn't just something he could not give a fuck about. Like, he does actually have to care, And I reached out to him and I said, I'm gonna have kids one day and they're gonna need a grandpa, You can't just go right now. You can't just not give a fuck, Like, there's people that care about you, and there's people that are gonna care about you in the future, There's still more people to care about you that you need to give a chance to care about you, Just kind of reminding him that there's so much more life, left to live that he can't just not want, basically, I think that's another reason why I've really been feeling the need to dialogue and start recording my life too. It's because I'm finally making a lot of changes mentally that are changing my life, honestly. Your mind is an image or a reflection of your reality, So if you have a cluttered or dirty mind, your reality is going to be cluttered, messy, dirty, And that's the way I was living, I was living with a very cluttered, bitter mind. And it's because I went through a lot as a kid, And a lot of it was from my dad. Most of it stemmed from my dad. But having this near-death experience with him has even put a lot of perspective in my mind, Like, he's done a lot that wasn't, good, He wasn't always the best dad at all, Nobody's perfect, but, some people can even be traumatic, but there's a point where you have to just stay present, and just forget about the past, Like, I've been on my own for years, he hasn't affected me for years. He's older, every time I see him, he's definitely, he's still definitely not easy to be around, but he doesn't hurt me anymore, I don't let him affect me anymore, So I think there's a point where I just have to forgive him, For so long, every time I would see him, I would love him. I've always loved him. He's my dad. But at the same time, I've kind of mentally harbored this hatred, this like blame even. Like lots and lots of blame. I blamed him because, being so young when shit was happening, it's affected me mentally. He is the reason for, a lot of mental problems that I still deal with every single day. But the more time that I waste just blaming him and harboring hatred, harboring anything towards him, the less time and the less energy I'm putting into bettering myself or just, moving on. I think this experience has really helped me realize how important it is and how necessary it is for me to forgive him. And I've really wholeheartedly forgiven him for the first time, And I've been calling him every day, and, it's just, things have been really good, This is a really big step in my life, like today. And every day, And it's just stuff that I don't This is all just stuff that I don't want to forget, because I do. Every day so much happens, and then I have to be so present that I will just, completely forget about the next day, and just completely forget about how much I've grown. And sometimes I'll relapse into a bad mentality, and I want to be able to not do that. I want to be able to just go back every day and look at how much better things have gotten, and not forget, all the grime, all the bad stuff, I feel like also in like 10 years, I'm not going to be able to remember literally anything from these couple years. And these are probably the most vital years of my life. Like, these are going to determine everything about the next 10 years of my life, you feel me? And I feel like keeping up with this, keeping track of it, and being able to look back on it later is just going to be so fulfilling. It's going to make everything feel so much more fulfilling, Another thing that happened today that I don't want to forget, that was really random. When I got off work at the Neely house, when I was at the McDonald's, there's this man, right after I ordered my food, the lady was like, "Oh my God, go help him," to her coworker. Coworker goes and helps this guy, and she goes, "Yeah, he puked on himself." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, this guy, he's sick, and he was in here last week, and he was sick too. We had to call the ambulance, and he has a heart problem." I was like, "What?" And then I turned around, and this bro looks, he's a lot older than my dad is, but I just had so many flashbacks of my dad. Like, my dad would do the same shit, where he would like I could just see in his face, like, how embarrassed he was, like, how much he just didn't want anybody, like, around looking at him. And there were so many people around. I just felt so bad. But that was the same shit that would happen to my dad. He would, like, get sick randomly at home, and, like, he would just be like, "Don't look at me." And, like, I'd try to help him, and he'd be like, "No, don't help. Just go. Don't look at me." And, I just saw so much. And they said it was a heart problem, too. So I was like, oh, my God, that's, like, it's probably somewhat like the same situation. I said, I bet he's probably got a problem and he's just ignoring it, like my dad. Especially because where I live in Muncie, and like nobody here has, there's always a rich like side of town, but this is not a rich area at all. That's why I live here. Like, my rent is so cheap. It's so cheap to live here. But this bro, you could tell he wasn't like rich. So as I was waiting for my food, I had this overwhelming urge. I was like, you have to do something. Like, you gotta do literally anything, bitch. Like, don't just turn away. Don't just not do anything. But I was just scared, and I was thinking, like, well, what can you do? Like, he probably doesn't want that attention or that sympathy. It would probably make him feel, bad. And then I heard these girls next to me, and they were, like, laughing about it. They were like, oh my God, this place is so, like, gross. There's literally guys just like puking on themselves in the corner. like they're probably gonna go tell their friends about it. Like, it's so funny. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, like I really can't not do anything. So I went and I sat next to him, and he had puke on his lap. And there was a guy next to him, and he was praying on him. He had his hand on his shoulder, and he was like, "Be careful." He was puking, and I said, I'm not sitting in a mess. I don't mind, anyways. And I just sat with him, and the guy was praying over him, and he was like, "Do you believe in Jesus?" to the guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I do." And I just looked at him, and I said, "Hey," like, as this guy's like praying over him, because the guy was kind of not letting me talk to him. I said, you probably had a bad day, so I just didn't want you to like be alone. And then he just like looked at me, and then nodded, and then looked down, and he didn't even say anything. And I said, "Hey, I know it's expensive to get help, but you know, sometimes it's necessary to get help. And I said, you know that there's always going to be a way for, you know, it to get covered. Just, you know, don't just ignore this. Don't ignore what's going on in your body. Just do something about it. And then the lady called my food. And then the guy looked at me that was praying over him and said, I'm going to talk to you at my church. Or talk, sorry, I'm high. He said, I'm going to talk about you at my church. And I almost didn't, and I didn't say anything because honestly that kind of pissed me off. Like, I am religious, but I was like, I don't want, like, this was just, I felt like that was something I wanted to just keep between me and that man, you know? I was like, why do you feel the need to tell your church about this? I mean, the man probably doesn't want the attention, you know? I just felt like it wasn't that big of a deal, you know? Like, I would go to church and, you know, like, you usually talk about like really big miraculous things, you know? I was just like, you know, that's just something that's not very worth telling the church, first of all, but like, especially a scenario with somebody that doesn't really want the attention, you know? Like, he really didn't want anybody to like know about it. Like, why would you just put somebody else's business out there? Like, why? So that you can tell people that you prayed on him? Like, just pray on him and let it go. Like, you don't have to tell anybody. Like, I want to dialogue it. I want to definitely keep this in some form that, you know, I can look back on one day and, you know, remember the man, you know, what happened. But, you know, I'm not going to go off to a church and be like, hey, there's this guy that, you know, is having a heart problem and I sat next to him and this guy prayed over him. Like, he's such a, you know, like, I just don't, I just didn't, I put it, well, vlog 1 done. I'm gonna go run and work my second shift of the day. If anything weird happens, I'll make another update. If not, then I'll just leave things as is. Peace. Okay, please excuse the bedhead, but I definitely want to make a little insert, and I'm already like crying. This is gonna be really hard to say. So about a week, no, I would say longer than a week. I'd say maybe like 6 months, just give or take 6 months. It was a long time. After that video, I had a gym membership. This was by the time I had my car too. At the time the video was made, I didn't even have a car. That was when I was walking everywhere. That's why I went to that McDonald's so much, you know. I had to walk everywhere. I would walk 2 miles to one job, and then another 2 miles to my other job, and then walk 4 miles home every day. And my days where I would get up at 7:30 to 8 to make it to my other job in time, and I would usually hang out at a coffee shop, because that's the thing, when you walk and it takes that long, you have to leave early, super early, just in case anything happens. So yeah, I hung out at that McDonald's a lot between shifts. I'd get coffee, and by the time I had my car and my gym membership, I went in the locker room and I saw this lady and I said, where have I seen you before? I know I recognize you. And she's like, yeah, I recognize you too. And then I said, are you one of my customers? Like, I have a lot of customers, maybe a regular. She said, no, but I work at the McDonald's. And it hit me. I was like, that's the bitch from when I was there. And she told me, oh yeah, you were the one that sat next to that man. I was like, yeah. She looks at me and she goes, you know, he used to go there every day, without fail. And then she said, after that visit, he stopped coming. And she left. She left the locker room, and I just cried and cried and cried. And I called out to his spirit. I said, I feel you. I said, I am so grateful that I could have been there for your last moments and that you didn't have to be alone. And this man has walked with me ever since. His name is George. He's one of my spirit guides. And he came to me before I found the old video. I almost completely forgot about that video, but I was cleaning out my storage and I found it because I had all these video diaries. That was the time that I was the most anorexic. I wouldn't say anorexic, I'd say bulimic. Anorexia is more like body-centric. Bulimia, I was just throwing up everything I ate because I could feel my heart stopping. It would send me into passing out on the floor and not being able to breathe for minutes and that was my drive. It wasn't like I was looking at my body like, oh, look at that. It was like I just wanted to feel pain all the time. And food, I was like, that's sustenance. You want to die, don't eat that. So the second that I would put food in my stomach, I was like, get rid of it, that's keeping you alive, you know, like that was really it's really fucked up. I was in a really bad place. But starting those video diaries was what really helped me battle that and come out. And George has been with me ever since. But I just wanted to throw that in there. It really adds to the power of that whole experience. Yeah.